Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Kelli Diemer, and I lead ACTE's Work-Based Learning work. This webinar is one of a series focused on planning for a COVID-19 impacted school year. We are looking at the school year through the lens of ACTE's high-quality CTE Program of Study framework. Today's topic is work-based learning. Work-based learning has seen a resurgence in recent years due to its value in preparing students for full-time employment. However, what new considerations are important now that we are living in COVID-impacted learning and work environment? This is what we'd like to explore on today's webinar. In addition to today's webinar, I want to share that ACT released a COVID-19 guide earlier this month. I encourage everyone to take a look at it as you prepare for the new fall semester. It is a great resource, and you can find it on the same webpage where the webinars are being promoted. Also, let me convey how appreciative we are for our teachers, administrators, counselors, and others who are working to support students during this challenging time. Thank you for all you do every day. I would like to thank our panelists for sharing their time and expertise with us today. I will introduce them in one moment, but first a few directions and how we will conduct the meeting and how you can interact with us today. First, you may notice that you're using a Zoom webinar. Well, there are a few features I'd like to explain. We'll be using the Q&A feature for questions. Your microphone, participant video, and chat features have all been disabled. Please type your questions into the Q&A box. We strongly encourage you to share your questions and resources throughout the presentation. We also encourage you as attendees to share answers to questions. Our panelists and ACT staff will also be doing the same, and this is a great opportunity to learn from each other. If you're experiencing any technical challenges, please use the raise hand feature in the participants box. Someone on ACT staff will respond to help you. Next, I would like to ask Alicia Heislop, ACT's Senior Director of Public Policy, to provide a few opening remarks about ACT's high-quality CTE Program of Study framework, which this webinar and the entire series is built upon. Alicia?
Thanks, Kelli, and thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon to dig into the topic of work-based learning and how we might deliver high-quality work-based learning in a school year that is most certainly going to be impacted in some way by the COVID-19 pandemic. Before we dig in with our experts, I did want to share just a little bit about the overarching framework, of which work-based learning is just one of 13 elements. If you haven't seen ACTE's high-quality CTE framework before, you can find the entire framework as well as criteria and resources on our website. We released the original 12 elements of the framework back in 2018 to represent what it took to deliver a high-quality CTE program from the local perspective that individual classroom teachers and local administrators, as well as other CTE stakeholders, could use to evaluate and improve the quality of the programs that they offered. Just this year, we've added a 13th element for system supports to represent all of the wraparounds that need to be in place in order to make these other 12 elements work, things like funding and research and supportive policies. But today we're going to be talking about work-based learning. And like all of the elements, the work-based learning one has a list of criteria that appear under it that further articulate what a high-quality work-based learning looks like in the context of a CTE program. And I certainly won't read all of these on the screen. There are actually more criteria under work-based learning than I think any of the other elements. But you can see here that it starts with the idea that work-based learning is a continuum of experiences. It's not just a one-time activity, that those experiences progress in intensity that they're aligned with relevant national, state, and local standards, and that very importantly, they reinforce and align to the academic and technical instruction that's occurring in the educational program. They are not an isolated set of experiences. Then it goes on to talk about some of the other criteria of work-based learning. Perhaps key, particularly as it relates to the definition of work-based learning that was included in Perkins 5, is that work-based learning experiences connect students through meaningful interaction with business and community professionals. That's really what makes work-based learning different from projects and engaging instruction that's offered all the time in a CTE classroom. That connection with business and industry is a key criteria or defining feature of high quality work-based learning. We talk about having requirements and procedures in place, complying with local safety laws and regulations, and then the supervision of the experience by CTE program staff. And all of these criteria we know will be impacted by what might be happening in schools and on campuses and in communities in the fall. And so I will turn it back over to Kelli and the panelists to really dive into how some of these aspects of work-based learning might be impacted and some best practices to address those.
Thank you, Alicia. For those of you not familiar with ACTE's high quality framework, I urge you to take a look at it and the growing number of resources that ACTE has made available on their website at acteonline.org. It is now my pleasure to introduce our panelists. We have three with us today, all currently working as work-based learning coordinators in one capacity or another. So I'm very excited to bring this opportunity for them to share what they've been doing. First off, we have Susan Leon. She's the curriculum and instructional specialist at West MEC in Glendale, Arizona. Our second panelist is Jan Jardine. She's the work-based learning coordinator for Provo City School District and works with students at both Timpview High School and Provo High School. And she is also the work-based learning division president for Utah ACTE. Our third panelist today is Kim Guy, who is the work-based learning at Lanier College and Career Academy in Georgia. We welcome all of you and thank you so much for joining us today to share your knowledge and experience. For our opening question, I would ask each of you to answer the following. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, including as you look to summer and fall, what is the current situation on your campus or in your state or school district? You know, have you reopened? Are you serving students in person this summer? Have decisions been made about offering in-person, blended, or remote learning for the fall? What's going on where you are? Susan, would you like to start?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Susan Leon. I work for West MEC in pretty much Phoenix, Arizona. We're in the West Valley. If you've been reading the news, Arizona, there's a lot going on right now. Stuff changes, I think, every other day. Our governor is actually talking at 3 p.m. today. So we're going to tune into that. So I think we're just being really flexible right now with how we're approaching our work-based learning. I work for a career and technical education school district. We have 26 programs. They're all different. They range from aviation to hairstyling to welding and medical assisting. So they're all going to be a little different. I think we're making plans for a bunch of different options right now, and knowing that we do have to start virtually on the 5th. Our governor's pushed back the school start date to the 17th, but we're going to start virtual learning on the 5th. So just exploring options virtually to kind of start the work-based learning continuum is what we're doing currently.
Oh, thank you, Susan. Jan, would you like to share?
Absolutely. So like Kelly mentioned, I'm the Work-Based Learning Coordinator in Provo School District. So I work with the students, mainly the internship students at the high schools, but also in building that continuum starting as early as elementary. And I'm the Utah Division of Work-Based Learning for Utah ACTE president this year. I have an amazing board that helps me, that we work together with our specialists at the Utah Board of Education to make plans and help work-based learning move forward. We haven't worked with students this summer, but all the school districts are working right now to make plans as to how things are going to look. A lot of schools are opening with options, both in-person and digital learning kinds of options. I actually just right before we started was listening to our governor announce a mask mandate for all of our K through 12 schools, anyone in the building. So that'll be interesting how that relates to work-based learning experiences, if we are able to do work-based learning experiences off-site. Like Susan said, we're kind of planning for every alternative, looking at in-person experiences if we can do that, but also looking at virtual experiences and project-based experiences that can still provide worthwhile opportunities for our students.
Okay, thank you, Jan. Nothing like real-time information here. Kim?
So basically, it's very similar. It sounds like we are all on the same page, even though we are in different zones across the nation. We are working on both a digital work-based learning experience in addition to face-to-face. We do have, we've already connected with businesses and sent out a survey to quite a few of our business partners to see if they are going to allow students to intern with them this fall. And it really varies depending upon the business and the nature of what the student does in their internship. So we will have both online options, virtual options that will include a lot of job shadow experiences. And we're going to get into that later in the panel discussion. But that will be available in addition to actual internships that are on site at the workplace.
Okay, great, great. Well, thank you all for that introduction to start our panel rolling. So as our audience can see, we've got 3 panelists that have their hands dirty with trying to figure this out. So this will be good. Question number 2: did your local Department of Health, county government, state system, district, and/or institution provide any guidance, waivers, or other changes to work-based learning requirements this spring when most of the schools and campuses were needing to close? And what about looking ahead at fall? Has any of that changed for you? Do you think students will be allowed to go to the work site in the fall? Anyone?
So in Arizona, we haven't specifically got anything just like pertaining to work-based learning. Our superintendent has come out with protocols for schools. Particular industries have come out with various protocols. So we're following those with our programs. We're taking, so again, I'm at a CTED and we like to hire the industry experts and then we teach them how to teach. So they have a really good pulse on what's going on in their industry. So we're kind of following what the industry guidelines are for certain things. So for example, the hairstyling program, we've already bought face masks for them. We knew they were going to be close to people. They're a human service. But no, we don't have any specific regulations for work-based learning. Again, with what's going on in Arizona right now, there has been no conversation about in-person specifically. So I'm focusing a lot of my efforts right now on finding virtual opportunities and virtual systems online that they can utilize for some of like the career exploration and awareness and preparation activities. Although I think that major experience is still kind of up in the air, where we need to get a little bit more information how we can achieve that virtually here.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Not everyone needs to answer every question, but does anybody else have anything to add to that? You know it. Oh, go ahead, Kim.
Jump in. Currently, work-based learning, of course, our district has protocols, and we're trying to follow what our governor is proposing, along with the CDC guidelines. As far as work-based learning in particular, what we did in the spring is basically, of course, all clinical experiences with healthcare, that is off the charts. I think that we don't even need to go there. That's very obvious. But in addition to that, what we did is we had basically a rolling, it was a live document that all of our instructors across the county would update weekly. And it changed depending on our students and the experience or the internship, wherever they were in the community. So it could be that one week, let's say Johnny was employed for spring, and we're going to continue this for the fall. And then mid-April, his industry or his place of work decided, okay, we're not going to have students on campus anymore. So it really varied depending upon the industry. And we created online virtual experiences for each career cluster. And in lieu of the hours working, if students were not working for that week, they would have to complete the online assignments. And that's how we kind of calculated the hours. And currently, we're going to continue with that same format for the fall.
Good. Well, and I do know that I've heard of some states that had requirements that every student had to have, you know, an on-site experience, and just all of a sudden all those dried up, you know. And so the question was, you know, how do we do this? And that's where some states sent out waivers, you know, to allow schools around that requirement because it wasn't possible. The other thing I want to mention, Susan, there happens to be a question for you in the question and answer. It says, I noticed you said you offer medical assistant classes, clinical or administrative, and then he talks about how this might look for your site for clinical hours.
So there's actually some people in attendance that might know a little bit more, but we have a certification that aligns with our medical assisting, and the externship is an option, but then they can also do a test or some online things, I believe. So they had done that last semester. A lot of them had opted to do that. Once they have the certification, I've been hearing a lot here and seeing they like get hired because we need people in healthcare right now. So if we can get like that, their certification obtained, if I would research your certification and see like what the options are, but once they have that, I mean, hopefully they can get a job.
I would also, thank you. I would also invite everyone that's in the audience to take a look at the questions and answers, and please feel free to answer, you know, answer some of those questions or give resources also, so that our panelists can continue talking. And I'm sure with 90 participants, we've got some good questions and answers out there. So thank you, Susan, for answering that. Let's see, question 3. What are you hearing from business partners about their capacity for work-based learning? Do they need interns and apprentices? Do they have time to coordinate job shadows or similar experiences? And, you know, again, will clinical placements be possible while they need health assistance so badly? Can they, you know, can they do it? Will they allow it?
I think, as was mentioned before, it's kind of on an industry by industry basis. It kind of depends on, healthcare is a little bit more up in the air than some of the other industries, but in my area, businesses still want to work with our students, and they're open to trying to find ways and figure out options and virtual experiences or internship from home kind of experiences to help these students still gain some experiences, because they are bought into the program and they recognize how much value it brings to them and to the student. So our business partners are really open to that, but we're kind of playing it by ear. Every week it seems like things change in this crazy environment that we're working in, but I think communication is the key, just continuing to talk and let them know that there are other options besides what it's looked like in the past.
Yes, thank you. Kim, you have a question on the Q&A. Do you have a sample of that document you said was shared countywide that that could be shared with our participants?
I do. We actually sent letters home to all of our students. And as far as the live document, basically it was a Google Doc with all of our rosters. And we had a column for each week. And it would change on a weekly basis dependent upon the student and the industry in which they were employed. Can I get those documents to you in a file, Kelly, and have you load them on the website with this recording at a later date?
Absolutely. That would be a great idea.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We are on a roll. You guys have an A+ so far, just saying. Set the bar high. So if students are placed in these in-person work sites, how can educators ensure safety and address liability issues? What precautions should be put in place for students, and how should educators monitor this? Yes. Okay. Yes, they should. Okay. Kim?
For us in Georgia, in Hall County in particular, we, again, a letter went home to all of our students and parents, and basically it gave them the option. So even if their workplace or their industry was still allowing students to come in and work, the parents had the option to keep their students at home.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the business partner is willing to work with us, it may be that our families are not willing at this point. And what we're doing, and I'm sure other counties, you know, across, we're all pretty much using the same protocols, but a survey is going out this week giving parents the option, and they're going to have to declare basically we're having on the 12th and 13th, based on where you fall in the alphabet, you can come in and see what the face-to-face setting is going to be like in the schools. And then you have a week to declare, okay, am I going to be an online virtual student, or am I going to attend my school in a face-to-face setting? So really, even though industry partners are willing to bring interns in for the fall, it may be that our students or their families are not comfortable with that. So at this time, we're really not sure.
Wow. Yes, it's not just one if, it's all the ifs. If everyone is comfortable with this, and there's a lot of unknowns. Susan?
I would say too, again, the way our programs kind of roll is our work-based learning is embedded into our programs. So we're kind of, in a way, we're buying ourselves a little time right now for our 1- and 2-year programs, because scaffolded work-based learning isn't really gonna, those major experiences aren't gonna happen until maybe later in the semester. So we have a little bit of time to figure that out. However, with what's going on in our state, the in-person really hasn't been much of a conversation piece. I will be honest right now. Like there's a lot of other things going on right now. And I'm spending a lot of time researching the virtual opportunities and connecting mentors virtually. And one of you said, or a few of you said, I think it leans towards some programs better than others. We have IT security and coding. If we connect with the right people, the right mentors, we can do some virtual mentorship and projects, whereas some of our industrial trades are going to be a lot more difficult. We can do the professionalism skills. It's going to be a lot harder to do the technical skill stuff and just all the stuff we know that's so good in person with work-based learning.
Right. We again have some questions in our Q&A box. A few of you mentioned some virtual work-based learning opportunities. Do you have a list of these options by industry sector, and can those be shared? I think, Kim, you had said that.
Well, we are creating ours. We do have a variety of resources that we've utilized in the past. We have some technical training aids. We have a resource network that is open and available for the state for all career tech teachers. But our work-based learning team is actually in the process of developing a course for each career cluster.
Oh.
And the way that's going to work is we're going to utilize some software and training aids that we currently, that we've used in the past and we currently use, but we have connected with industry partners and asked them to create some job shadow videos and embed into the course. We don't want it to be generic. We want them to have the experience as if they were in the world of work. So we have partners that have definitely contributed by creating videos with our local businesses, and we're doing that with our post-secondary institutions as well.
Good. Jan, do you have anything to add? Thank you, Kim.
Well, we're working this, kind of doing the same thing, working with the industry partners to set up those virtual experiences. Of course, there are things online like NetPris or sources like that that have some things already created, but trying to find virtual experiences that can provide all of the learning that the in-person experiences have done is hard. It's difficult. So for healthcare, for example, I'm working really closely with our region healthcare committee to see if we can get some interaction and some videos and things like that from people in the profession so that students can use those and see it right, how it's working right here, right now. So that's just one example of something that we're working on.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. You know, it's that dance between having a wide variety available that are not specific. They're just taped interviews, and you know, the work it takes to set up, you know, a one-on-one kind of relationship with a live person, just really interacting with the student. And we of course know that's a better example, but you know, when you're all of a sudden having to turn this around to find, you know, all these quickly, it is challenging. I will say we are rebuilding the work-based learning section of ACTE to include a section that will give you links for each of the states and the resources, you know, so you can quickly find these Utah resources that Jan mentioned, or the Georgia resources that Kim. And so that's all, you know, and you all keep updating your website, so it's a constant, continuous work in progress, but trying to make those more readily available to people, because we've got some states that have really focused on some different avenues and really built out some good resources. There is some more examples. Virtual job shadowing .com might be useful. I'm trying to keep up here. There was a question about number of hours. I'm not doing a great job here. Let's see. Okay, I've lost it. I'm sorry.
Kelly, I think the question mentioned, do we have an hours requirement, or or would we consider moving to a competency-based work-based learning criteria rather than just hours? And I think that's definitely something we're considering, especially if students aren't able to go on site, is are they meeting the goals that we have in their plan? And not looking so much at number of hours, but are they having experiences and working with the industry and engaging? Our state is moving to a focus on LinkedIn, and so we'll be looking at our students engaging with LinkedIn, and are they learning how that can be a tool for them? So all of those things will kind of be rolled into the criteria for competency.
Good. Yeah, you know, a lot of education is moving in that direction with competency, with moving trying to move away from seat time. Well, now that we don't even have any seat time, makes it a little bit easier. So at least right at this second. This next question I think kind of was covered, but just want to make sure that we're covering everything well. So, if the in-person work site's not available, can some work-based learning be integrated into the classroom if the schools are open or operate remotely? And I think most schools are going to be open from what I hear from the news. Will industry-driven projects, simulated workplace, even the school-based enterprises be able to be effective to fill that gap for our students, being able to have that work-based learning experience? And what are some best practices you've seen in your area?
Again, I think it's really important to cater to the program and the industry with which your program aligns, and to see what they're doing, because they're trying to figure it out virtually too. So if we can replicate whatever that industry is doing for our students, then we're actually preparing them for, that's work-based learning, because that's what's actually happening right now. So let's try to recreate that. Some best practices that I kind of wrote down, but Dan actually mentioned one of them. The NEPRIS is pretty awesome. I was playing around on there last week. There was a NAF article, naf.org, that talked about, like, somebody must have done a ton of research, this author in this article, that just had a ton of work-based learning resources, links, everything. It's on their website, and I'll try to find a direct link. We also had some success last year with Real World Scholars. They did a partnership with Harbor Freight. So a couple of our industrial type programs, our CNC program and our welding program, opened up a virtual student-based enterprise where they were selling items. I don't know what they would sell this coming year, because they're not in the lab making those things, but maybe they could do some things online, or they could offer some kind of consulting services or something online, but that has worked well for us. I also wanted to mention too, I think everything with, like, career exploration and preparation that's within the continuum, like, some of those things can be done asynchronously. So if the mentor doesn't have time in that moment, or they want to do a field trip and record it, or whatever works for them, and then you can utilize it for your students too. I just wanted to mention, so you're not putting yourself in a box thinking it has to happen synchronously all the time.
Absolutely. I don't know what's going on with the rest of you, but I am getting a bad storm here in Iowa. In fact, I couldn't run the video, so just an FYI, not ditching this fun group. If I lose connection, it's because the ARC needs to be built. So that's what I got. Okay, going to continue, move on. There are some really good questions and answers, and thank you, participants, for responding. There's resources being put in there. Yeah, just a lot of good things. So I'm trying to catch questions, but otherwise just some really good examples and links. So please do take a look at those the question and answer. How can educators use virtual work-based learning platforms, simulations, and other remote tools to connect learners to industry partners, and teach these employability skills and help students learn about work? So we've mentioned several of these tools, but the whole employability skills is a real tough thing when you're talking remote. We've got a number of textbooks that have chapters on employability skills, but there's nothing like having the student out there in front of the employer to really have some real life learning. But if they can't be out there, how do you do that? Because soft skills, professional skills, employability skills, whatever you call it, it's needed. How do we do that?
No, I think this unique time allows us to provide some skills that we didn't even think we needed before, like how to present yourself professionally in a Zoom meeting, or how to actually talk on the phone to someone, and have a good conversation, or even send a message via LinkedIn or things like that? How do you do that in a professional way? So I think the employability skills are still there, communication and problem solving and working together. We just are applying them now in this other situation as well. And students, I feel like, are getting even a more well-rounded experience because they're learning how to apply it in a lot of different ways.
Good, thank you. So there is hope. Good. Either one of you?
Well, so our dental assisting program did a virtual field trip in April, I want to say. I didn't find this out till afterwards, that the instructor was telling me they did some professionalism lessons beforehand. How do you operate Zoom? Like everything Jan was just saying, how do you operate Zoom? How should you be dressed? What should your background look like? You need to ask some follow-up questions. Do you type those or do you unmute yourself? And we can still teach that stuff in this environment.
Good. I'm sure they missed riding the bus though, you know, so there's nothing like the bus experience. Let's go on to the next question. You know, when you do have students that get to do on-site experiences, you know, there's the businesses, they've worked it out. So there's students that are out there getting that face-to-face experience. How does the educator, you know, help guide the industry partner? How do they collaborate with the industry partner? And how do you evaluate a student that, you know, you need to keep socially distanced from? And has your school given you, you know, of all the different things, any guidance that if you do have a student on the job, what can you do to help support that student and that, you know, that experience? Yes, I went off my script a little. Kim?
So again, we have found that a lot of our industry partners are following the same protocols as our county. And if they are on the site working, I think we can continue as is. I mean, they've got a socially distant system and protocols in place. We are wearing masks. We are doing temperature checks upon entry into the building or into a particular office. If gloves are required, we certainly will wear gloves. It's really, again, dependent on what the industry is requiring because they are all so very different.
Yes.
But I think that we can continue to monitor and evaluate the training plan for each student if they are on site, as we have in the past.
Good, thank you.
And I think just, again, being in constant communication and making sure that everyone involved understands, you know, these are the guidelines that the governor says we have to follow, and these are the guidelines that you have to follow, and how do we come together and make it still a good experience. But I'm hopeful that we'll still be able to go visit our students and still interact and talk with the mentors, and just following whatever guidelines it is, just like Kim mentioned.
So it sounds like communication is a key to making this successful, even if it's different types of communication. Some question and answers, some popped up. Questions were, where do I see the answers? Where do I see the questions? I'm not quite sure the frame of that question exactly, but the Q&A little button at the bottom should pop up the window, and then it's a matter of scanning up and down. So some may have that mastered better than I do, but you should be able to see. You should be able to see the questions, and if people have posted answers, that is absolutely terrific. So don't forget about that. How can educators continue, you know, to ensure that the work-based learning training plans are aligned with the desired outcomes? I find myself talking all the time that, you know, work-based learning, quality work-based learning isn't just students out on the job. It is students out on the job for purposeful outcomes, purposeful learning, structured learning, And that doesn't come out of the file cabinet. It comes out of a communication between, the work-based learning coordinator and the employer, and also taking into account where the student is with skills and abilities. So how can you ensure, after you put all this work and done this communication to put a quality training plan together, how can you be sure that they are actually progressing through it, whether it's, still on the job or it's a virtual thing? That's one of those many hats that work-based learning coordinators have to wear. So how do you do that?
It's funny that you guys said communication for the last question, because I had written communication really big as an answer for this one, but I think it has a lot to do with that, having a structure in place. One of our requirements for the state of Arizona is a training plan, which basically is what you guys are saying, and they have to outline 10 objectives, goals. And we kind of all do it a little different in the West Valley of Phoenix, but they look about the same. When they're writing those really personalized goals, it's best practice to have the mentor review them, work-based learning facilitator, but then have the mentor on the work site really have a three-way communication. Are these achievable right now in this environment in general? And then if they are, I think also displaying flexibility as their mentor. I keep saying mentor, but work-based learning coordinator and mentor if things need to change. If the goal isn't achievable, something changed with the situation that's going on right now, then we can change those training plan goals. So that would be my answer.
Yes. Well, I'm glad those are required, and I'm glad those are fully done. I've run into way too many scenarios where it's the same quote unquote training plan photocopied for everyone. And it's, it's a quality document when it is really reflective of what's going on, who the student is, this mentor, and all those types of things. So bravo to Arizona. You're winning again. Jan or Kim?
One other comment that I wanted to mention, Kelly, is I think we just need to be flexible. I think a main theme as we've talked about all these different things is we kind of have to think outside the box a little bit. Like a student knows, I want to do this and this and this, but maybe we can't do one or two of those in this situation, but maybe we can alter them a little bit to still give them skills that they need. Just it looks a little bit different than what they initially had expected. So just remembering we're not stuck to what used to happen.
Oh, goodness, no.
I agree. And also it may be, similar to the live rolling document. It may be that students start out in a work site, but then 4 weeks into the school year, it changes and they have to pull out and become a virtual student or vice versa. So really, I'm thinking in regards to training plans that they are going to have to be more customized than they have in the past, depending on, and even let's say if you have a certain amount of students in a particular industry, based on their workplace, it will be customized. You can't even go by industry. It's really the employer and what they are comfortable with at this point in the game. So the training plans actually may have to be edited into the term or the year. We can't just make that, those goals initially and say that's going to happen for the fall term or the school year even. Flexibility and communication and really customizing it based on the business partner is what we're going to have to do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Hand in hand with the training plan is, of course, the training agreement to even set up the experience and make sure that it's, everyone understands their responsibilities and what they, what the outcomes are and who's all, in this. That, of course, includes signatures from everybody, so everybody agrees upon that. I've had a lot of conversations with people about the fact that they are modifying those, training agreements, which have been pretty standard for what fits to the school, with what they, what the requirements are for their local program, et cetera. But I've had a lot of conversations about the fact that those might need to have an extra bullet or two specific to, we recognize we're in this scenario, because there are some businesses that are scared to open the door with the high schooler that's been with 1,000 high schoolers all morning, and now they come to their work site. Or in the other scenario where the parent's a little nervous about, is the proper safeguards being taken at the workplace for me to feel comfortable to send my student there. Some of that has to be the work-based learning coordinator going there and seeing, just like safety, being the eyeballs for it. But I have heard of, people talking about revising that training agreement, not training plan, but training agreement, to even set up some of those safeguards or scenarios, or we recognize that this is what's going on now. And the point that I always follow that with is, if you are doing anything with the signatures of who's responsible for what and all that kind of stuff, you should always have your school attorney, school board attorney, somebody take a look at it to make sure that those added things you've added to it doesn't open anybody up. It's clear verbiage for people to be comfortable with. So, because there's not going to be a generic one out there that's going to fit everybody. You need to get that okayed. Now we've got some more good questions here. There was a question that this individual's never seen any resources particular to the appropriate protocols for online meetings. What resources do you have that can be shared? Would someone like to jump in?
I don't know if we necessarily had specific resources from one place, but when we shut down, when our state shut down, a lot of our school districts were on spring break. We were all on spring break, so we just didn't come back after spring break. And actually, our career services director sent out some information to our entire staff in our district on how to operate in this environment. It got passed around, but making sure, she had just found some stuff online and some stuff from her spouse's employer about how to operate in this online environment. So I don't have anything specific, but I know there's things online about how to be professional in an online environment.
Yeah, I might be off base here, but Toastmasters, there's a national organization, Toastmasters, that have to do with speaking, but I kind of think I remember it has something to do with some meetings too, but I might be off on that. But yeah, there's professional organizations that are built around these different topics, and of course online meetings is a little new for many organizations, but there are about, always check always check who wrote it, but there are some valid resources out there. So the other big question is, of all these great resources and things in the Q&A, is there a way that people are not being able to copy them, the links out of there? So will that be published? Brandy, can you answer that? Or Steve?
Yeah, we'll have it as a PDF on the website, all the resources here. So they'll be able to click on the links in the PDF.
Very good. Okay, so I think we've covered that. All right, I have got a little housekeeping left with this, but I think I personally just very much enjoyed this panel of professionals that are out there figuring it out. They might not have the answers today, but call them tomorrow, and I think they will. And so just joking, because it's an ever-changing thing, but they put up with me, which is the most important thing. So thank you so much for volunteering your time this afternoon for doing this. The whole video, the whole thing is recorded and will be available on the website. So if you want to see how great you looked, you can look back. One more time, I will apologize that you got to see my frozen face the whole time. Technology just sometimes just doesn't cooperate. So if we could go back to, got a couple things to pull together here at the end. One is, thank you, panelists, for sharing your expertise and ideas. on this very, very important topic of work-based learning. I wish you all the best as we collectively try to figure this out and prepare for the 2021 school year. On the screen shows you some more upcoming activities and events and panels that we put together specific for the Work-Based Learning Youth Apprenticeship section of ACTE. And so all of these links and things will be sent out to our section members. So I invite you, if you're not a member of the ACTE Work-Based Learning section, I invite you to join it. If you're already a member of ACTE, you can add another division or section to your current membership for $10. It is the best way to get these live resources that I can possibly think of. So you can see there the 3 panels that we have tentatively planned for August and September, and then the next one, the collaboration with other organizations, is tentatively planned for October. We're looking at continuing our work-based learning section Zoom calls, of which we do those about 5 times a year. Those are discussions on how we can better support our membership and grow and offer the professional development that we need to. So again, Zoom links will always go out to our work-based learning section members, and we would love to have you participants if you're not currently on. In addition, please remember ACT is always here to serve and support you, and hope to see you back here as we continue this series on COVID-19 and high quality CTE programs of study framework. And we hope to continue to hear from our CTE educators, our administrators, counselors, and all the other professionals who are working to support our students through this difficult time. We definitely want to hear about your successes, your challenges, and your needs for additional support so that we can be here to answer. With that, I don't know if we have any closing comments, but please reach out to us if we can do anything. Again, thank you very much, Jan, Kim, and Susan. You are all great, and have a nice day, everyone.